residential tech talk, lighting specialist, residential tech.
All right, we are back on the Residential Tech Talks podcast. I'm your host, Rob Stott, and excited and honored, frankly, to be joined today by two gentlemen who, represent this industry and custom integrators, doing what they do every day. So, Mr. Daryl Friedman, Global President and CEO of CEDIA, and Darren Reaman as Director of Government Affairs down there at CEDIA as well. Gentlemen, thank you for taking the time and joining us. And I look forward to chatting with you both here today.
Thank you.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so I could start by saying, how are things? It's an interesting time as we're sitting here talking. I like I said, we talked beforehand. I'm on the road, but it's an important time in our industry right now with things that are going on. And I know you guys just got off of a Hill Day that we're looking forward to diving into. But just ask you both kind of right off the bat, how are things today as we sit here?
Well, it's an economic uncertainty going around with every industry, but I think our industry is one that has proven its resilience in the past, and we've been through tough times before, and we've been through tariffs before, we've been through recessions and inflation, and this industry is one that I think is becoming more and more essential to homeowners. So I do believe we will withstand it, but certainly I'm getting a lot of calls, a lot of questions, and we're trying to provide as much information as we can in this time of economic uncertainty.
Can only imagine for sure. But, I will bury the lead a little bit. If we dive into them, what the announcements were on Liberation Day, April 2nd, we'll do that a little bit later. But I want to start, obviously you guys CEDIA is just coming off of a Hill Day that I know, correct me if I'm wrong, is this the second year or how many years, second year of Hill Day?
Yes.
Yes. So before we dive into, what went on at this Hill Day specifically, I just want to give you a chance to kind of set the stage for, the history of it, a 2-year history. So not super long, but the importance of doing it and, why it's a significant sort of event every year now for the organization.
Yeah, well, I'll go first so I can toot Darren's horn, and then I'll let Darren go. The advocacy work at CEDIA has gone on long before 2 years, and even long before I got here. Darren was doing really important work in the states to preserve the licensing regime that was beneficial for integrators. And I think people probably don't know how much work he's done to make sure we could stay in business. I mean, literally, there are certain states where integrators would be regulated out of business or be forced to hire an electrician on staff to stay in business. So I just want to applaud the work that's been going on in the states for many, many years. When I came on, I had 2 goals for advocacy. One is to make sure the work that Darren was doing was noted. CEDIA called it our best kept secret, and it shouldn't be because it's important work. And the second piece of it was to expand that to federal work at the Washington level. And that's my background. So that's what we did. We just came off of having 30 people on the Hill representing CEDIA's channel, representing our industry and our community, 2 members of Congress on important issues. And so, Darren, feel free to add anything now that I've embarrassed you.
No, well, I appreciate the background on the state and definitely have added, we elevated our participation more at the federal level, and that's with our CEDIA Smart Home Day on Capitol Hill, which we just came off of. Timing is very well, noted as the recent news, and we took our industry has a very important story to tell, and this provides us an opportunity to do that, to continually introduce the important work that our technology integrators and our members do and the industry supports. And then also this year we taught the importance of tariffs, or the impact on tariffs to our industry, and seeking out congressional support for an exclusion for the systems and the technology we integrate, and then also continued support at the congressional level for the CHIPS and Science Act, which supports semiconductor technology adoption, high-skilled jobs, the technology, again, supporting the supply chain and the important technologies that our industry supports. So asking Congress to continue to support the important initiatives of that piece of legislation. And then a carryover bill or issue from last year to this year related to workforce development is continued support or co-sponsorship or thanking members of Congress who are co-sponsors of the Freedom to Invest in the Workforce Act. And that's the expanding of the traditional 529 accounts to include technical training, career development, certifications, professional certifications, and would again support those important jobs and workforce for our industry and expanding our industry. So those are the issues that we took to the Hill, and well received, and we'll continue to work on follow-up, and follow-up is going to be very key over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to dive into, how this Hill Day went more specifically in a second. But Daryl, you mentioned obviously Darren's been at this for a while. So Darren, I want to give you the chance to, talk about how government affairs at CEDIA has evolved over the years. Obviously, we've got Hill Days now where you can go and down to DC, and you guys are getting face to face with Congress, members of Congress. But what did the role look like when you started, and how has it changed over the years?
Well, I mean, we get a lot more information in time. The technology and the level of bill tracking and the information on legislators and legislation is key, but there's still a lot of principles that still remain true. The importance of our members being involved, staying engaged as small business owners, and being able to step up, whether that's on a federal Hill Day or if we have an issue at a state, and being able to active. And there's a lot of technologies, one of which we've used over the last couple of Hill Days with digital advocacy. We have Civic Click, which is our digital advocacy platform, and we're able to send out to our members and also members of the industry to ask them, hey, you may not be present in DC, but take the time to reach out to your congressional members on these important issues that we just talked about. And we had great participation this year on that. So being able to stay engaged, involved, and building those relationships as we did at the Hill Day, those same principles apply whether that's at the state level or at the federal level, and the importance of our members to stay engaged and involved, because there's exciting things for our coming ahead with the adoption of the National Electrical Code and related to Class 2, Class 3 power limited circuits and the technology that we provide. But we need to stay diligent in advocacy work, because that ultimately decides who can do future work, not only today, but future work in the future. Right. And we feel, CEDIA feels, advocating and technology integrators are best positioned to provide that service.
No, that makes a tremendous amount of sense. And Daryl, looking at Hill Day last year to Hill Day this year, did CEDIA adjust at all or learn anything from the first go around with Hill Day, and how did you guys evolve the event this year?
Yeah, a couple of ways. I think, first of all, when we came to the Hill last year, it was the first time CEDIA's ever been to Washington as an organization. So a lot of it was about introducing and educating the members of Congress, who our members are, what the CEDIA channel is, and how this industry works, and the importance of it to the economy and to each one of their congressional districts and the people who vote for them. So that was more of an emphasis last year. This year, I think we were a little bit better known, although we still have to keep introducing ourselves. Congress changes constantly, and we have to always introduce ourselves to new members of Congress. We also introduced a couple of guest speaker concepts to educate our delegation, and we also had more people. So this year we invited a number of manufacturer presidents and CEOs. We had representation from Origin, NICE, ADI, Snap One, Crestron, Josh, Savant, and others, to kind of get that manufacturer's perspective, especially as they're the ones who are importing a lot of tariff-impacted products from overseas. And then I think we'll continue to grow it over the years. I mean, I envision this to be a future activation where every member of CEDIA who wants to come to Washington can join us and be part of this day, because this is about numbers. And the more we can show the Hill that we have the numbers, that we're a big industry, and that we're here to make our case. And I'm here based in Washington full time, so I've been doing this work for a while. We have a saying in Washington that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So it's important that you be here and our members kind of make their case, and because when we're not here, someone else is making the case on the opposite side.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And I know too even being here this week as I sit here, at HTSA, hearing a lot about talking to some people that were there with you all, and one of the challenges that I can imagine comes to the front at an event like that is that you're in DC and everyone's there, and you're at Congress, but the people that there, like DC, everyone knows it as a melting pot, right? They come from all over the country. They have their own backgrounds and constituents that they're familiar with and there on behalf of. I have to imagine, is it a challenge to get them to your point, to understand what the industry is and how it impacts them? Someone from, say, Detroit versus someone that you're talking to from Idaho. I don't know what the locations the congressman that you were talking to came from, but they obviously have very varied backgrounds. So what's that work like to get them to understand this channel and everything that goes on within it?
Yeah, well, I'm going to let Darren speak about some of the background work that he does preparing for the districts. I mean, it's all about localism when you're in Washington. It's federal issues, but they only care about what their constituents at home feel and believe. So we have to tell them about the jobs that we have in their districts and the way this impacts the districts. And Darren prepares each group, and every meeting that we go into, he does some background on kind of that work. So I'll let Darren kind of talk about the background work on the districts.
Yeah, so one of the important things is because actually, each congressional office is kind of like a small business. They're interested in their district and how that impacts their district. So you tie it back to the district, but I do a lot of pre-work leading into these meetings to match up our members to each district as much as possible. And then that kind of sets the stage for introducing the issues that we bring year to year, and being able to make that local. Anytime you can mention a manufacturer member or multiple technology integrator, small business firms that represents 10 to 15 jobs that do this work, then that helps. That introduction then helps us lead into the issues that we're presenting.
No, that makes sense. You're effectively a scouting, or it's like a scout for a baseball team down there, looking at the pitchers you're coming into, right? That's kind of what it feels like.
Another piece that you do is you also look pre-meetings. Okay, what committees do they potentially serve on? What kind of background do they have? I'll just use two general examples. I met with a congressional office in Iowa where we had a few members, and then also in Minnesota. And during our discussions and talking about tariffs exclusions, they tied back to the importance and the impact to their district with agriculture. But then we made the parallel as a group to, just as this is going to impact the agriculture committee, this also impacts the home technology systems industry as well.
No, makes a lot of sense. Did anything that, of the topics that you mentioned earlier, Darren, did anything sort of resonate with the members of Congress that you were talking to, or did you see sort of like a light bulb go off for them, like this is the thing that I'm going to latch onto, or that the industry was able to get through to them?
I do. From the carryover issue from last year, the expansion of the 529s, workforce development, that's one theme. You talked about how, the congressional offices have a lot of meetings throughout the day, throughout their time, especially this time of year with Common Hill days and stuff like that. But one of the common themes they're hearing over and over is the importance of workforce development within multiple industries, and we're not alone on that. So I think continuing interest around the co-sponsorship of the Freedom to Invest Act is a key takeaway, and something we'll continue to follow up and push for, not only from our members from our meetings, but also the importance of that to supporting the workforce of our industry.
And I'll just add to that, the timing is great for us on this, because the whole vibe of four-year colleges versus technical schools is changing. It used to be technical schools were like, that was the thing that if you couldn't get into college, you do. Now this upcoming generation, they're called the tool belt generation. They understand this is the kind of work that is well-paying, is knowledge-based, is highly skilled, and I think Congress now understands that as well. So the idea that these savings plans, which parents in America used forever to send their kids off to four-year college, could now be used for technical training, even CEDIA certifications, is something that's really resonating. And our timing is really good on this because I think the world is seeing the benefit of technical training as opposed to always doing the liberal arts degree.
For sure. And I know too, you mentioned timing, being there as recently as you were. I heard the word, I think, Darren, you mentioned it, tariffs was a big talk of the town, I have to assume. And, you know, pre-Liberation Day, what was the conversation like? You know, what were you able to say? You know, what was the kind of the direction or, you know, the conversations like in those offices down there?
Yeah, I think, well, obviously we knew that the April 2nd date was coming, so it wasn't a surprise, but we were focusing primarily on exclusions. So with tariffs, these are happening. We can go to Congress and lobby and say, don't do the tariffs, then it would be pointless because, first of all, they're going to happen either way, and secondly, it's not really the congressional branch, it's the executive branch that put this on. So we were trying to have an ask that actually was reasonable and could be accomplished, and that's to have exclusions. There are, in the first Trump administration, they did have an exclusion process where industries could apply and say there are reasons why this particular product or this particular component should be excluded from the tariff because it can't be produced in the U.S. or, well, you know, we would lose more jobs than we would gain. So really the correct ask in this context of what was going on in Washington was for Congress to put pressure on the administration to create an exclusion process, which again, the Trump administration did do the first time. So it's not an unreasonable ask, and we hope that it will be considered and help our industry.
Yeah. And now, obviously, on the other side of it, you know, the message here obviously has been just, it's a lot of unknown. I know things have been announced and we know some numbers, but, you know, it's still a lot of unknown in terms of how it actually plays out and what it looks like and the impact it'll ultimately have. But the one thing I did keep hearing, the one theme that kept coming up was just communication, right, between vendors and members and ensuring, you know, they're able to talk to one another, be transparent with one another. And then on the other end of that, being able to be transparent then with clients, you know, for these projects. So I guess, you know, knowing that there still is a lot of unknown, what's the message to the industry around this now that we have at least a little bit of information on what this looks like moving forward?
Yeah, we were ahead of this about a month ago. We did a webinar for our members on the tariff issue. We had experts in trade talking about what could be coming, and they did predict accurately what was to come. But on the heels of that, it was actually a question. It was in the Q&A section. A member asked us, "Can you recommend how we protect ourselves?" So CEDIA got to work with our legal team to put together template language that our members could use in their contracts and their proposals to just say to protect themselves. The last thing we want one of our members to be hit with is a price increase because of a tariff, and then they've locked in their proposal with the client. They haven't ordered the products, not in stock, and then basically they're going to be eating that piece of the increase in prices. Mm-hmm. So we suggested our members all got free of charge as a member benefit from us different versions of language that they can incorporate into their proposals to let them know that, hey, if these tariffs do impact the products that we're selling to you, we will have to pass this on to you. So I think that's part of the communication. And then, of course, now that the Liberation Day has happened, we're going to be following up with our members with more information about what it all means, distilling it down to its essence, and also how it applies to our channel.
Yeah. Advice for them, you know, as those things move on, just give you the chance to talk about how they can stay informed with, you know, the organization and ways they can get involved.
Yeah, Darren, you want to give the sort of the email and the website on advocacy, and then I can share some other thoughts.
CEDIA.org/government affairs. And if they have any questions, if there's any questions about advocacy or what's going on in their state, feel free to reach out to me directly at Reaman, REAMAN, at CEDIA.org, and happy to follow up. And just would also encourage our members, there's still time. They all got the civic email from Daryl on March 27th, so please take the time to send that out and continue to reach out to your congressional offices and and the most important thing always in this work is to join and be a member and help us with numbers. And I would add to that, join when we renew right away, because a lot of advocacy work begins at the beginning of a year. So it's throughout the year that it's done,
Yeah.
but also to be able to take the numbers and have an impact at the state level, at the federal level, through regulations and through whatever advocacy work looks like. Just please continue to stay a member and stay engaged in your association.
Yeah, I'd emphasize that and just say, we do a lot of things for the industry, whether you're members or not. The webinar, for example, was free of charge to everyone in the industry. But the contract language, things like that, those are specific membership benefits. Joining us in Washington in future years, that's going to be for members. So I would encourage people to do it. It's a way of supporting the industry. We're doing the work here. Advocacy is only a cost center for CEDIA. There's no revenue in it. So we just encourage everyone to be part of us, what we're doing. And again, cedia.org/advocacy is another way to get to the site. And just a lot of information there to stay in touch.
Yeah, and just to bring it home and wrap it up, looking ahead to year 3 of Hill Day, having learned what you did now 2 years in, to both of you, what do you expect it to look like moving forward? And, just what are your thoughts there?
It will be bigger. And we're moving to a place where we're going to invite our entire membership to come. I don't know if that will be next year, but next year we'll certainly be adding some new integrator members, dealers from different regions where we believe that member of Congress is critically important to moving our agenda forward. So we'll specifically target and invite integration companies who are in those districts to come and join us as part of this. So look at for a doubling next year, and then the following year really becoming that scale with the entire membership. Love to see hundreds of people coming to Washington.
Mm-hmm. Chance of Hill Day expanding to I don't want to say Hill Week. That's a long time to consider, but Hill couple days. How does that sound?
Yeah. I mean, even this one was really, in a way, it was 2 days. We had a dinner the night before with the speaker and did a lot of the briefing to prepare them for the next day, and then so it went almost a day and a half. I can see it growing in size as well as growing in duration.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, Daryl and Darren, I appreciate, again, like I said at the top, you guys taking the time. It's always a pleasure to get on the horn with you and chat and chop things up and see what's going on in the industry. So we appreciate the time, appreciate the work you're doing, and definitely look forward to catching up again down the line.
Thank you for your time and continued support of the industry.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Great to be with you.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Residential Tech Talks podcast, please subscribe to us on the platform you're listening on. Also, be sure to follow Residential Tech Today on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Residential Tech Talks, lighting specialist to Residential Tech Talks.
Home automation device, home or smart house.